Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 4, The Women, from verses 20 to 23. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the Gracious, the Merciful. وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمْ إِسْتِبْدَالَ زَوْجٍ مَكَانَ زَوْجٍ وَآتَيْتُمْ أَحَدَهُنَّ قِنْطَارًا فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُ شَيْئًا أَتَأْخُذُونَهُ بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا مُبِينًا. If you wish to replace one wife with another, and you have given one of them a fortune, take nothing back from it. Would you take it back fraudulently and sinfully? وكيف تأخذونه وقد أفضى بعضكم إلى بعض وأخذن منكم ميثاقا غليظا. And how can you take it back when you have been intimate with one another and they have received from you a solid commitment? ولا تنكحوا ما نكح آباؤكم من النساء إلا ما قد سلف إنه كان فاحشة ومقتا وساء سبيلا. Do not marry women whom your fathers married, except what is already past. That is improper, indecent, and a bad custom. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم وبناتكم وأخواتكم وعماتكم وخالاتكم وبنات الأخ وبنات الأخت وأمهاتكم اللاتي أرضعنكم وأخواتكم من الرضاعة وأمهات نسائكم وربائبكم اللاتي في حجوركم من نسائكم اللاتي دخلتم بهن فإن لم تكونوا دخلتم بهن فلا جناح عليكم وحلائل أبنائكم الذين من أصلابكم وأن تجمعوا بين الأختين إلا ما قد سلف إن الله كان غفورا رحيما. Forbidden for you are your mothers, your daughters, your sisters, your paternal aunts, your maternal aunts, your brother's daughters, your sister's daughters, your foster mothers who nursed you, your sisters through nursing, your wives' mothers, and your stepdaughters in your guardianship, born of wives you have gone into. But if you have not gone into them, there is no blame on you. And the wives of your genetic sons, and marrying two sisters simultaneously, except what is past. God is oft forgiving and most merciful. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God the Great said the truth. These verses are carrying on in regards, or the beginning verses are talking about when you do have sometimes situations where a divorce occurs and you are found sometimes in a position where you might want to replace a wife with a new wife. It's just because of the nature of the relationship that you guys are enduring together. And sometimes in certain relationships, you end up actually hurting the person to the point where you are now actually imposing on your own religion. But with that said, you are making now the precautions, or you're taking the steps so that you won't hurt her religion or hurt your religion by losing your mind or losing your cool or doing things that are not appropriate by what God has already ordained from his religion. And one thing that God is clearly telling us here is that you're not allowed to take back from what you have given your wife. Yes, this is obviously one way. It's not something that where the wife has the right to take from you or doesn't take from you, because she never had the responsibility of giving you anything. But you, on the other hand, just because of traditional values and what the human race tends to do, which is where the women are taking care of the home, or they don't tend to try to be the breadwinners, and the male is technically the breadwinner, so they are the ones who are out doing what they need to do to gather these resources and the wealth, where now he has the obligation of spending on his wife. Yes, this is what usually the normal standard is what happens in society, but there's absolutely nothing wrong if the wife wants to be a breadwinner and bring in her own fortune. But whatever she gets of her own fortune, because her world would be technically a little tougher than her counterpart of a male, because it is technically a male's world in a certain aspect, and it's technically easier for a man to go out and build an empire and make money more so than a woman. But of course, a woman has every right to do so, and she has the ability to do so. But with that said, she does not have to spend her money on her meal or her man except from the kindness of her heart. It's not an obligation. While on the male side, it is an obligation. If she is your wife, you are having to feed her, you are having to clothe her, you are having to house her. And as God states in many verses that they are not allowed to be kicked out of their homes, other than if they bring a clear immorality, which in this case is adultery or fornication with individuals that are not her husband, that are not you. And God is telling you, like here, I don't know if the translation would be extremely accurate. I don't think God is asking a question. It's more so is like taking it back is fraudulently and sinful. So why would you commit to something that is of possession in the world in a way where you are now committing something that is sinful? Unfortunately, in a lot of relationships, what ends up happening because of the toxicity, the individuals want to kind of get revenge back at each other. It does take a lot of courage, and it does take a lot of patience to deal with certain individuals that were in a relationship with you, because now they have known your deeper secrets. They know who you are. They know how you think. So they use that against you just because they feel like they were heartbroken, or they were maybe neglected, or maybe not getting the attention that they required. You haven't treated them bad in a sense. You have not cheated on them, and you have not broken them per se, but what ends up happening is the love is no longer there. And unfortunately, people also from the male side, they start to hurt the girl because they know that the girl is not capable of getting a job or not capable of providing for herself. So they start to use these materials that they've given her as a way to get back at her, which God is telling us is completely sinful. And the thing is, it is now, maybe you are at a rough patch where you guys are not seeing eye to eye. And God has already asked the question earlier, like, why would you hate something that there might be a lot of benefit or good for you? And it has much benefits with you, like lest you hate something that has a lot of benefit from you. And here, despite all the hate and maybe the drama and all the pain that you're enduring now, there was a time where you guys were intimate, where you guys were close. And anybody who has been intimate with their partners, they understand that that feeling involved, that relationship that is built, it is extremely pleasant. It's extremely beautiful. And that's why people chase these feelings. And that's why people chase these companionships, is that for that moments of romance and those moments of compassion when people are close together, which truly fills up the people's hearts by God's grace. God has programmed us to feel these emotions. And now God is reminding us of these emotions when we had these moments of intimacy. So why would you now forget that completely and go for the kill or go for the throat? Now, He did take from us, as God states, a very solid covenant or commitment, where when you are with that partner, when you are with that individual that is your spouse, your wife, or your husband, there is a bond with you which it is very difficult to break. In fact, even after your divorce, especially if there was sexual intercourse, that bond can never be broken. Is because they took a part of you and you took a part of them. Yes, physically the bond breaks, but there's always that part of you where you feel like you're almost connected because you had these moments of intimacy. But yes, you do have to get away from each other if you need to. You do stop seeing each other, and due to people being actively sexual prior, now that it's no longer permitted for you, you also have to understand that these moments of intimacy should not be a reason for you to transgress later, whether to get back with her or to get at her. And now God in these verses is also telling us what is legally permissible for us to marry and who isn't allowed for us to marry. But the beautiful part about this chapter 4, it truly shows you on how technical the words that God is using. It is an extremely technical chapter, especially because of the intricacies of the word choice that God is using. This is something that's very clear here. Now, God is telling us, do not marry whom your father is married. Notice how fathers is plural. So you could see in other verses, which we covered in chapter 2, where God is talking about the children of Jacob or Israel. And the children of Jacob said that they will follow the religion, or they will worship the same God that their fathers worshiped. And they used Isaac, and they used Ismail, and they used Abraham, which Isaac would be their grandfather. Isaac would be their grandfather, and Jacob would be their father, and then Abraham would be their great-grandfather. right? And in this regards here, you also see there is a trickle down effect. So where God is saying, do not marry women whom your fathers married. This would include your grandfather at this point and your great grandfather. Because unfortunately, when we get to the other verse, there are these conditions where certain sectarians throw at you as an argumentation that the Quran is not complete and that you need to go through the other books for you to understand on what is forbidden or not. So they ask you, is it permissible for you to marry a girl and then marry her aunt, for example? Or marry her and then marry her aunt from the father's side. So they would put you in a situation where now it's like it isn't permissible because they are technically sisters, but they're not blood sisters. But how would you explain that? Because there's no direct direct banning of that incident in the Quran. But when we start to look at the language here where God is saying fathers, and then we look at the next verse where it says that it is not permissible for you to marry your mothers again, ummahatikum. So it's the pluralization is something that is extremely important. That it's not just your mother that birthed you or the father that birthed you. There are also other fathers and mothers that are involved, where then the trickle down of what you shouldn't be marrying will also apply to them. And you could also see that here when you are looking at certain individuals that are also present, the thing that will make it not allowed for you to marry their offspring is that you have also initiated actual sexual intercourse. So the concept of just marriage alone is not gonna stop you from, say, marrying a daughter of a lady that you married. But if you go into her, as God states that if you had sexual relationships with her, then her daughters are not permissible for you anymore. And yes, because these are generational bannings, we're not going to talk about the daughters of the daughter or the daughters of the stepdaughters or the great stepdaughters of the daughter of the mother that you married at that moment. Yes, it can be complicated in the way that you want to see it, but it's only a certain set of generations that apply to you. And then from that point on, it's like you're not around or you're no longer able to get married. But talking about the intricacies of how God is speaking in the Quran, where He's not adding words as filler words, everything is placed for a specific reason. There is something here that is awesome to think about, where God states, and the wives of your genetic sons. Notice how God states that the sons that are from your loins. So now, therefore, if there are no sons that are not from your loins, then God would have not used the word genetic sons or the sons from your loins. As in Arabic, it says, الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُمْ أَبْنَائِكُمُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُم. He didn't say أَوْلَادِكُم. أَوْلَادِكُم is the ones that are born from your actual loins. But here he said أَبْنَاء, which would mean sons. الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُم. So the idea is that you have sons that are from your loins and there are sons that are not from your loins. It's not so much as an adoption, but rather that you are raising them as your sons. The ones that you are raising them as your son, you are allowed to marry their wives if they divorce them, as we will see in chapter 33. But in regards to the sons from your loins, obviously this is forbidden because God has forbidden it. And to put two sisters together as well at the same time, which is showing you that there is moments where you are allowed to have more than one wives, but there are certain conditions where you're not allowed to put two sisters together in the same time. It's just which it seems like God is not allowing certain diseases to carry on and certain issues that comes with certain forms of incest, which here is clearly most of this is incest. But at the same time, there's also the respect of the mother and the daughter relationship, which here God is also addressing. And yes, there are times in history where people did commit certain types of immoralities where they are marrying sisters at the same time or marrying certain people's mothers that they shouldn't, or their own mothers or their aunts or their aunts from their dad's side or their aunts from their mother's sides. But God is saying that He's forgiving and that He's merciful. And now that you know that it's wrong and you shouldn't be doing it, then now at this point, you have been warned and you have been admonished. So at this point, this is where you make the changes and you go to what makes you better. The reason why God puts these rules is just so that it would make our society a better society. So we wouldn't fall into certain things that would cause certain diseases and on the other side would cause family issues and family problems. because certain things that have been covered as forbidden to you, to us it seems disgusting, because now we've realized on how disgusting it is, and God clearly states to you that this is a disgusting custom that people used to do. But the beautiful part that we are reminded by in this Quran is on how intrinsic and how detailed God is with the language that He's choosing. There isn't any filler words in the Quran. Everything is placed for a specific reason, and everything has a purpose for it being there. When things are pluralized, it's pluralized for a specific reason. When things are coming to you in a singular form or duality, because Arabic has duality, it is all part of the message that is being delivered to you. And the people of who are considered the people of knowledge, they look at these certain details so that they would see on how much God is explaining in these verses. This intricity was also shown to us in the verses in regards to inheritance, on how God is showing you on how to deal with the inheritance with the least amount of words that He chose to use, yet it covered everything that we need to know. Yes, there is one more verse about inheritance, which is at the very last page of this chapter, but it also covers the edge cases where it is not the usual standard of what happens, but everything else was covered in the two verses that we've already covered. And with that said, I truly hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to our Lord, the Lord of the worlds. Peace be upon you.